Stories from around the corner
and around the country.
You're listening to All the Best.
Proudly supported by the Art Gallery of New South Wales.
Before we get into this week's stories, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm recording from stolen and Gadigal land and pay my respect to Gadigal elders past and present, and also recognize that the area where FBI Radio is situated, Redfern, has long been a place of storytelling, strength, resistance, and resilience for First Nations communities. You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Kwame Slusher. And I have a question. What does heartbreak sound like to you? This week's stories are about heartbreak, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the loss of who you once were, or a relationship that didn't work out. And in this studio to help us talk about this, we have a story maker and somebody that I call a friend. We have Lee Chan. Welcome.
Hi, Kwame.
And something we both have in common, we are both audio makers.
We are.
So how did you get into making audio stories?
By accident. I discovered yesterday I was a bit of an audio nerd, right? Because, well, when we were at TAFE together, we were given an assignment to do an ASMR piece. And whilst everyone was doing, what does this sound like? And, what does my morning sound like? Or, and they were all great ideas. I was like, what's something really obscure and random that doesn't actually have maybe a sound that I could be creative with? And at the time, I had just lost my aunt. And so there was a bit of grief and a bit of heartbreak involved with that. And I just thought, I played around with, what does grief sound like? What does heartbreak sound like? And then I thought heartbreak's kind of broad. There are so many different types of heartbreak. So I thought, well, let's go down that route and see where it leads us. And I did this beautiful, really short piece with a friend of mine, Rebecca. And she told her story. And I just thought, oh, we could run with this. Let's do it. And it ended up, and that is how I became an audio nerd.
And is there something particular about thinking about the sound of heartbreak? Is there something unique about audio and sound that helps us think about what heartbreak might be like?
I think what's unique about it for me is that it's different for everybody. And in the piece, we sort of, we go through heartbreak, peace and healing, but with the knowledge that it's not linear for everybody. It's not going to be the same. And some people never reach peace as well. So that's also accounted for. And that is what first drew me to it, that it was that uniqueness that everybody has a heartbreak story, but everybody's sound of heartbreak is going to vary and be different.
So you mentioned that you realized that there were so many different kinds of heartbreak. I'm assuming that you might be interested in exploring other kinds that are not included in this story.
Absolutely. If you have a heartbreak story that you would like me to listen to or create a sound design for, to create a beautiful story with, please send it in. Whether you're heartbroken from love, from losing someone, if it's a personal heartbreak, I want to hear about it. And I want to discover heartbreaks I hadn't heard of. I think that would be really nice. When I was speaking to Rebecca and Ethan, who were featured in this story, with Rebecca, when I played it back to her, she ended up tearing up and she said it was quite therapeutic for her to listen to all of that. It brought back so many memories, and it had happened to her so long ago that a lot of those feelings resurfaced, and she didn't realize how much she needed that to heal. And with Ethan, he said the same thing. Actually, Ethan, he was a strange one because he's a young man, and I don't think he had told this story to anybody yet. So for him, he at the end of it, he said, oh my gosh, I just feel this big weight just lifted off my shoulders because I'd never spoken to anyone about it like this. And he thanked me for listening and making an audio story out of it.
So for those people who have those heartbreak stories that they're dying to share with you, how can they reach you?
We will pop a link in the show notes. So if you would like to submit your heartbreak stories, go to the link and apply, and we'll make something out of it.
So that leads us right into our first story, where Lee explores the sounds of different kinds of heartbreak and whether they can become sounds of healing.
Cancel code green, 836. Cancel code green. Cancel code green.
Unthinkable，
咩叫 what's unthinkable?
即係 incredible 啦。
Oh, I see.
Sitting in the waiting room of the cancer care ward,
Cancel code green, 836.
I look over at my aunt and she has a distant look on her face. 今日幾多度啊? She's asking what date it is in Cantonese for the third time that morning. 28th of June, I reply like it was the first time. Oh, I see. Your birthday is 28th of June too. Yes. Yes, it is. We both sit in silence. That was the day we found out she had 3 months or less to live. There was nothing else we could do about the cancer that was growing inside of her every day. She'd taken care of me since I was born, and she didn't have children of her own, so she was like a second mother to me. When she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, I became her full-time carer. Our relationship over the 3 years was challenging. She wanted desperately to hold on to her independence and quite often yelled at me for helping. She developed dementia and couldn't rely on her short-term memory. Every week there were at least 2 or 3 appointments for oncologists, blood tests and scans. Being her carer meant that I went through stages of frustration, even resentment, before I got to fulfillment and purpose. In her last days, her breathing became laboured. She slept a lot. She barely ate. I felt like I should have seen it coming, and yet I still laid on her chest, sobbing, asking her to wake up repeatedly. After she was gone, my body went into shock. I realised I didn't know who I was anymore if I wasn't taking care of her. I kept myself busy, sorting through her things, trying to remember who I was before all the appointments, the meal prepping, and reminding her to take her pills. I slowly picked up hobbies I'd once loved, like boxing. Boxing was a huge release for me. Every punch felt empowering. I joined a musical theatre choir, and I filled my heart with the joy of song. I journaled every night about the things I'm grateful for. Like having had the opportunity to take care of my aunt in her last years. That I could repay her for her kindness to me. Her name was Rose, and every time I see a red rose blooming in the spring, I'm reminded of her. I still cook her favourite dishes. The sound of bubbling beef stroganoff will always remind me of her and how she ate it with a smile, exclaiming,
Unthinkable.
What's unthinkable?
即係 incredible 啦。
Oh, I see.
I just felt that my knee give away and falling onto the ground. Very audible. I had no idea what had happened. And to find out a week later after getting a scan that I'd torn my ACL, it was hanging by a thread. That was a big monumental change in my life, and I had surgery the following month. I used to love my basketball. I was playing it 2-3 times a week, and everything was all well and good when I turned 21. I thought, yeah, I'm going to join the team. I'm getting pretty good at this, and nothing's going to stop me now. And just in an instant for everything to vanish is pretty crazy. I remember a very monumental moment, like going to see the physio and him reading my MRI report and him telling me, like, this is it, like, you're going to need surgery. And at this point, I was still limping. And I just remember not really knowing how to feel about what I was getting into. But I remember limping, trying to get to one of those green man crossings on the highway. And the light turned green. I was supposed to cross the road and I just couldn't get there. I just had to watch the light turn from green to red. And there was nothing I could do about it. I could not get there in time, and I just ended up crying. I think in that moment, I felt like the world was really against me because, you know, I just couldn't do anything about it. I've gone through it now, but I've gone through it a few times now. It never gets easier. If anything, it feels more unfair every time, like the third injury, fracturing my kneecap, yeah, so... That was the most heartbreaking one, honestly. Like, the first one sucked because I felt like I lost everything, but then I started to get it back. The second one sucked because I just thought about how I'd have to do this all again. Like, it was just repetitive. But yeah, the third injury, that definitely curveballed me because I had just moved out. I moved from the area of Turramurra out to Strathfield with one of my old high school mates, and I was 2 months post-operation with the original second surgery, and I was smashing it. I was speed walking everywhere. You know, I was feeling good. I was getting stronger, getting ready to go train legs in the gym again. So I was like, things are great, you know. Then I came back from TAFE one day and I slid on a pile of leaves outside my apartment. I didn't even fall over. I just slid on the spot, and when my foot regained balance, I just felt that same daunting, very, very scary pop, and I felt that pain. It's just everything crumbled again in an instant. Everything just gone. All the hard work just gone. So, and that one sucked. It's such a battle in my mind because basketball was something that really brought me a lot of joy. The sound of the ball bouncing across the hardwood floor, you know, the sound of the ball swishing through the net. It's therapeutic. It's aesthetic. It's whatever you want to call it. It's great. I love that. I loved so many aspects of playing the game. And especially the social side, you know, when you'd score or when you'd do something pretty crazy and your mates would be there to hype you up and cheer. There's so much about that environment. I miss. And it's really toying with me having to decide between preserving my future physical health or maybe giving it one more try. This is one of those common pieces of advice you get, but having a support system is huge. And even in times where I felt like I didn't have a system per se, I'm mainly referring to my girlfriend who has been there for me through thick and thin. She's been my rock. And the fact that we've only been dating for 2.5 years and this injury of mine has eaten up at least two years of my time with her. To have someone by your side that's not going to put you down for what you're dealing with and that actually uplifts you and celebrates those little victories with you, it means the world. And it's really important in my recovery. And I think for anyone needing to get through a tough time, having someone there for you is huge. Yeah. A big milestone for me was to try and hit 140 kilos on a squat. I ended up getting to 120 before my second injury. But it's pretty crazy to think that that milestone right now, it's not that it seems almost unachievable, but I'm so far from it. So right now in my mind, after I get through another few weeks or months of rehabilitation, just the sound of a barbell clanking against a squat rack, just the sound of me being able to function in the gym again and not avoid that section of the gym, I think that'll be pretty therapeutic for me. It'll be an obstacle I've overcome. But there are, in terms of finding peace, there have been moments, they're always the most simple of moments where I feel like everything's going to be okay. Like there are days where it really gets to me and I'm having to listen to sad music or drown out all the noise with something, anything besides just the emptiness of it. But my most peaceful moments recently have been when I wake up on a sunny day and I'm frying some bacon or eggs in a pan and looking out the window and a bird flies by and the sunlight peeks through the window and I'm going to go, yeah, I'll be all right. I say to myself, I'll be okay.
An aeroplane. A passenger terminal having to leave and being heartbroken, my first love, leaving to go back to Australia, which sucked at the time. I'd had such a good time overseas, and to not only have to come back to Australia, but to come back to Australia with a broken heart. And in those days there was, only letter writing or long-distance phone calls, which cost a fortune. So back in the day when you used to get those long-distance phone calls, it would make a noise. It would go diddle-diddle, and you'd go, oh my God, it's him, because you heard that sound, and the sound of the line on the phone was distant, and it made it feel even more distant and more rushed. Healing sounds very gentle to me. It's nature. The ocean is a very healing sound to me. When I have had a broken heart, I go to a particular spot on the beach and I send my prayers out to the ocean, out to nature. I know it sounds weird, but it feels like I'm being healed by nature. Sometimes I even get the dolphins come and say hello when I'm particularly heartbroken. Peace and contentment is an acceptance of sounds and also an appreciation of beautiful sounds like bird song, like the sound of your dog snoring. That is the sound of heartbreak, but now the sound of an aeroplane engine is quite exciting to me, really.
That story was produced by Lee Chan, and the supervising producer was Phoebe Adler-Ryan. In our next story, Finn explores the different ways one can cope with the loss of a pet.
I'm gonna kind of bring the mood down. So if you're interested in being depressed, stay. Thank you. This is a story called Kobi Dog. My dog died a few weeks ago. I deeply regret not taking the time to learn to draw him properly. There's no one in the house that bothers to bark at the printer anymore. No one tips over their water bowl so frequently it warps the floorboards. No one squats in the backyard to do a poo that I've seen, or kills patches of grass with their pee. No one lays on the floor under the table by my feet. I don't feel anyone nosing my hand for dinner scraps. I think of Kobi's annoying habits most often, actually. Like how we had to close him in a different room when we used the vacuum. How he scared all of our visitors with his insane barking at the door. How he stared unblinking whenever Kep and I were preparing food. The floor by the front of the house, by the front door. The floor in front of the kitchen sink. The floor directly in front of the fridge. Outside of the bathroom, behind the kitchen table. The corner of the rug in the living room. There is nothing laying in any of those places. I have friends who can picture things in their minds with photographic detail. But I've never been able to do that. When I draw, I feel things out, letting the lines kind of pull out shapes and reveal what I'm thinking or feeling on the page. And actually, what I'm usually doing is depicting a feeling. Sometimes I see a quick, vivid flash of detail. The leathery little bumps on a warm, soft nose, shiny, rubbery lips, that begging face with those glistening eyes and ridiculously oversized eyebrows. How, when Kobi ran, he kicked his butt into the air. He was not the most elegant dog. And how slow he was. And how his fur always smelled of warm, dry hay, and that funky smell on the inside of his ear. And how he'd jump up at the door to be let out. And those little tic-tac bottom teeth peeking out between his lips. And that breathy little he made when he wanted to bark, but he knew he shouldn't. And Ronaldo once did a bicycle kick and stopped a robbery. And once he kicked the ball so hard, it actually caught on fire. Wow, Leon, sounds like a pretty amazing guy. I'm already sunscreened. Leon, who was 8, now 9 actually, was very close with Kobi. Elodie, it's 5, actually now 6. It's sad that Kobi died. Can we go to the park now? I feel bad being so sad. I can't help feeling like I'm being selfish. In many ways, this loss is so incredibly small. But this small thing is complicated and messy, and it's unreasonable. I know I'm very fortunate, and I feel terrible anyway. I wish there was a right way to feel loss. After my dad died, I couldn't say his name without crying for months. It was scary being so full of sadness all the time, never knowing what would set me off when all that grief would come sloshing out, would crash over me. I might cry at a smile, or a stranger on a train. But after a while, that sloshing sadness stopped feeling scary and started to feel kind of weirdly comforting. There should be a word for that, I think, for comforting sadness. The kind of sadness that tells you how great someone or something was and how lucky you were to love them.
That story was written and performed by Fionn McCabe at Live Graphic Storytelling Night, Read to Me, on 9th of March 2024 at Sydney Town Hall. Musical accompaniment by Martin Peralta. Find more info about Read to Me by visiting their Insta at readtome_, and more of Finn's work at www.finnmccabe.com. Whether you're a storyteller or a story lover, tune in to All the Best for unique stories from independent audio makers from so-called Sydney and around the country. Catch our live radio broadcast on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. on FBI Radio 94.5. Listen to our podcast Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on allthebestradio.com, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. All the Best is made at FBI Radio on Gadigal land in association with SYN on Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung and Boon Wurrung lands and ACCC on Arrente and Warramungu lands. The All the Best editorial producer is Mel Bakewell, and Phoebe Adler-Ryan is our executive producer. Patrick McKenzie is our community coordinator, and thanks to all the volunteers who help to bring you all the best each week. Shining Bird composed our theme music, and Annie Hamilton designed the artwork. We're heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network, and were made possible by the Art Gallery of New South Wales and the Community Broadcasting Foundation. You can find our full archive of more than 500 episodes at allthebestradio.com. I'm Kwame Slusher. Thanks for listening.